Finally signed his new deal at UConn, a reported 6 years for $50 million, as opposed to the reported 6 years for $70 million the Lakers offered. So, Keyshawn, what do you make of this?
Well, now that I'm looking at the highlights of him celebrating at the championship, smart move, stay at Connecticut, man.
Really?
No, stay at Connecticut. It's probably a better deal anyway for him.
You said offer him 6 years, $90 million.
If you really
right?
wanted him. If you
okay.
really wanted him, yeah.
Okay.
But now that I look at it, the $50 million that he got, and you look at the 70 that he could have got from L.A., it's really not that big of a difference, to be honest with you. You had to move your whole family. I know it's $2 million less, but you could always go back to the table in college, as y'all know. As soon as you win, go to the tournament again, go back to it and say, man, I need more money.
Yeah, I mean,
somebody
just signed the last deal a couple years ago. Look, I am not personally in a position to say $20 million is no big deal, but he already has enough for his grandchildren's grandchildren to be set. So you have the luxury in that sense of making decisions that aren't just for money. I think that he knows that he has a chance to do something rare, the first three-peat since John Wooden, and that the NBA will be there for him. There is NBA interest in him, and he can be a lot closer to home. He is a Northeast guy instead of coming and taking over this franchise at this moment. So I think it's smart for him.
When he rejected your Lakers, used them as a negotiating pawn, I thought he was promised by UConn to be made the highest paid college coach. And if I'm reading this correctly, unless there's some hidden bonus here, this doesn't put him in the ballpark of being the highest paid, because Bill Self and Coach Cal are going to make more next year. So I'm just a little surprised by this.
We need to save some NIL money.
But he'll be back at the table in 2 years, Skip.
Yeah. Maybe in 1 year.
Maybe in 1 year.
Because he was already back at the table after because his deal was just a year old.
As soon as he wins, this agent goes in and says, hey, we got to up the ante.
So now you're good without him?
Yeah, too much rah-rah. We good.
Really?
Yeah.
So J.J. Redick is going to be the next John Wooden, right?
Hey, man, that to me looked like college basketball.
That's it for us. We're back tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern. And Joel Embiid said yesterday on ESPN that it's amazing the Sixers now have Paul George, a player who isn't afraid to make big shots when the ball is kicked out to him from the post. Embiid also admitted that the team's lack of playoff success throughout his time in Philly has weighed on him. He said, I'd be lying to say that patience wasn't tested, because I'm at the point where there's no awards, there's no regular season or no All-NBA or All-Stars. It's going to change the way my legacy is. Well, there's a few things that can change it, but the main one is the championship. Rachel, please give us your read on what Joel said.
I can agree more with him about the fit. It's remarkable. And this is why we had this conversation months ago. And I said, I really hope Paul George ends up in Philadelphia, not because I wanted anything to go wrong with the Clippers, but just the fit was so tantalizing between them. And when we talk about fit, we talk normally about, someone who's additive, right? Who does something that the other guys don't do. And Paul George is additive. He adds something that they don't do. He is also a multiplier, though. He is going to make Joel Embiid better. And Joel referred to it a little bit in the interview. He was talking about maybe being healthier. That was another point that I loved about this. Key, you and I were talking, and you said, Kawhi and Joel, how much of a difference is it injury-wise? I think that Joel's injuries, some of them come from exhaustion and overuse. We've seen that, not the early ones, but the ones recently. The biggest criticism of him has been that he gets tired late in playoff series. When you have Paul George there, taking some of the banging that was previously only focused on Joel Embiid, being around to play an extra game that Joel now can take off to heal from the knick-knack injuries he does have. The reason that he got knocked out for this past season was because he had a much more minor injury, and he felt pressure to come back the next night and next game, and he came back too soon. So a lot of that kind of stuff is going to change things. As Joel said, you can kick out the ball to him, that kind of thing. The patience part I thought was interesting, understandable though. And he elaborated a little bit about how there was a real crisis point in his thinking when it came down to the Harden trade demand. Because all of a sudden you have management who's in a position now to possibly have to trade Harden, and they had already, previous regime had traded away Jimmy Butler. These are guys that he really liked and that who he jibed with, and they hadn't had the playoff success. He and Daryl Morey had an honest conversation, and Daryl laid out his plan to leave all this cap space and sort of have things set up so they could get a guy like Paul. But as Joel said, you can have plans. Those plans don't always work out. So I think that's why his patience was tested through all these years. But I just think Paul George takes care of so many of those things, and I think that he will make Joel better. He'll make Tyrese better. I just think, and then he's additive. He adds so much to it.
His patience will get tested again, though, Rachel, if he doesn't get his ass in shape.
Well,
Right? I mean, that's really.
I'm going to
that's
keep saying
really,
he's in better shape than he was.
I get that. But it's really, when he says a frustration, he should be frustrated with himself. Because when he's not there, they're not there. Like I haven't seen a dominant big like this since Shaq.
No, I
You
mean,
haven't.
Like, I mean, I get,
MVP.
you know, I'm talking about like dominant. I'm not talking Jokers won MVPs in the championship, but not with the force that this kid can come with.
Joel was scoring more than a point a minute before he
Yes.
got knocked out with the
So when you look at it from that standpoint, yeah, there's gonna be frustration. But I'm serious about it. He got to figure out, because that's all I hear is about his diet and this and that, and that's why he stays hurt and all. He's got to figure that out. If he can figure that out, they're not too far off with Maxey and now with Paul George and whatever other little crumbs that you got laying around. You know, you got a coach that's won a championship before. He knows how to do that. So it's all, to me, it's all about him getting into top-tip shape. Like, just figure it out. Shaq went through it before, where everybody was like, oh, even to Kobe, basically said, man, you got to get your ass in shape.
He did.
And then once he got in shape,
It
he was a
over.
different dude. It was over.
over.
And this is the same thing that
Agreed.
applies to Joel Embiid. Yes, getting Paul George is huge because it allows him, much like you said, Rachel, if he needs a minute or two rest, he doesn't have to, a night or day or whatever, doesn't have to. Imagine if they would have let him rest a little bit more against the Knicks and they had a Paul George to go along with a Maxey. They'd probably come out of that thing clean.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe come out of it cleaner. I mean, that's just, you know, Embiid tried, but he was out there on one leg and still giving them fits. So I start with the health part for him, though. He's got to get his butt in shape to stay healthy.
Yeah. So I chuckled at Joel's line about my patience has been tested in the postseasons. Well, trust me, the patience of everybody around you has been even more tested.
Yes.
And I'm so with you. I am his biggest fan and sometimes his harshest critic constructively because I see so much there. And it's going to come and it's going to go and it's going to be over before you know it and he'll be too old. But he's in his prime right now. And you have to understand, as you know about being a professional athlete, you have to be able to step back from it and embrace the fact my window is way open right now and I have to maximize who I can be because I can be Shaquille O'Neal. I was the MVP. I thought he could have won it 2 years in a row. I thought he could have won it the previous year from Joker. But the point is, this is the time. You got it. And Daryl Morey keeps saying, well, okay, let me try this, and I'll give you this. And James Harden didn't work. Okay, so I'll go get Paul George. And I love this team, man. Like you say, the fit is great. Tyrese has come into his own. I like Caleb Martin. He'll fit for them. All
Caleb
the pieces.
Martin is not a crumb.
No.
You say the crumbs that they have on the rest of the roster.
Yeah, not a
Same.
crumb.
Not a crumb.
When you mentioned in the Sixers, you mentioned in 3 people.
I'm just saying, not a crumb is all. I'm going to say this again. Joel Embiid is in better shape and has better off-season habits than he used to. That is just a fact.
Well, that may not be saying a whole lot, but
does he
whatever.
does he have another gear to go
Yes.
to? I certainly could.
good
I'm not
thing-
an expert in that, but certainly it seems as if he could. And I do think that Paul being there is going to help him keep sort of in better shape all the way around.
Absolutely.
Okay, because his seat just got a little hotter because at some
now-
point you're going
now
to
you
step
have
back and say, hey, they keep giving you you got all this swirling around you. Now you gotta be right.
We'll take him.
Yeah. Well, would you? Is that what you're angling toward? He'll flame out in Philly and wind up in LA?
We'll take you. Come on out west.
Okay. All right. In a moment, Dan Hurley's new